darkness gives way to a blur of distorted colors and strange giant shapes. I try to scream, but the only sound is the scratching of chitin against dry wood. My vision has fractured into 8 distinct overlapping perspectives of a claustrophobic room. I look down to see 8 hairy black and pink legs supporting my weight on a leaf. Memories of a ritual and a cold blade across my throat flood back into my mind. I was a human student just moments ago, but now I am nothing more than a bug. Suddenly, a translucent blue interface flickers into existence before my eyes. The text identifies me as an Amazon laser tarantula, a species that shouldn't even exist. A massive booming voice echoes from outside the glass, vibrating through my very soul. She greets her audience, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness as she prepares for a show. This girl, Jung Yu Ling, is treating my life like a circus act for her fans. The top of the cage slides open and a pair of long tweezers drops a wriggling mealworm inside. A primal instinct suddenly overrides my human disgust, making my mouth water. I pounce forward with a speed I never knew was possible for any living thing. My fangs sink into the soft flesh of the worm, delivering a potent dose of neurotoxin. A system notification pings, announcing that I have gained my first experience points. Jung Yuling laughs, telling her viewers that the little monster has a big appetite. But the mealworm was just a warm-up for the true nightmare she has planned. She dumps a mutated, aggressive leopard gecko into my small glass arena. The gecko is 5 times my size, its scales shimmering with an oily, toxic sheen. I retreat into the shadows of a hollow log, my heart racing in my tiny chest. The evil god system prompts me to use my unique skill, paralytic webbing. I begin to spin a trap, moving with frantic, calculated precision between the twigs. The gecko lunges, its tongue snapping out like a whip to catch me in the dark. I sidestep the attack, climbing the vertical glass wall with effortless grip. From my vantage point, I see the perfect opening to strike at the gecko's soft neck. I drop like a stone, sinking my venomous fangs deep into the reptile's flesh. The gecko thrashes wildly, slamming its body against the glass to dislodge me. I hold on with all 8 legs, injecting every drop of poison I have left. Slowly, the gecko's movements grow sluggish until it finally collapses in a heap. I stand over my fallen foe, my breathing heavy as the system tallies the kill. Evolution available, the system announces, and a surge of heat ripples through my carapace. My body grows larger, my chitin hardening into something as strong as tempered steel. Outside, Jung Yuling is ecstatic, showing the spike in her view account. I realize now that I'm not just a pet, but a high-value asset in her twisted business. If I want to survive, I must play her game until I am strong enough to break the rules. I begin to explore the limits of the system, finding hidden stats and forbidden skill trees. A shadow falls over the room as a heavy door creaks open behind Yuling. The girl's smile vanishes instantly, replaced by a look of genuine cold terror. A man's voice, cold and ancient, asks her if the sacrifice is ready for the next stage. I realize then that the glass tank isn't my only prison, and the real battle is only beginning. I stare at the thick glass walls of my enclosure, knowing my current power level is still far too low to break through. Outside the tank, Jung Yuling is smiling at her camera, her face illuminated by the cold glow of her computer screen. She announces to her thousands of viewers that tonight's match will feature a true nightmare for my tiny form. The lid of my tank slides open with a rasping sound, and a heavy weight is dropped onto the soil. A 30-centimeter Galapagos giant centipede uncoils its orange segmented body, its hundreds of legs clicking rhythmically. The centipede senses my presence immediately and begins to circle me like a living whip of chitin. I check my system status, seeing that I need only a few more points of experience to reach the next evolution tier. The centipede strikes with lightning speed, its toxic fangs grazing my obsidian black thorax. I use my silk to tether its head, pulling its lethal mandibles away from my vulnerable underside. With a surge of strength, I bite deep into the joint between its first and second body segments. The system notifies me that the centipede's nervous system is failing as my paralyzing venom takes hold. I consume the remains, feeling the hot rush of energy flowing through my newly reinforced carapace. Young Yuling's laughter echoes through the glass, but she isn't satisfied with just one victory. Suddenly, the entire tank vibrates as a much larger creature is lowered into the arena. It is a mutant golden mountain toad, its skin oozing a thick, corrosive yellow slime. Before I can even position myself, the toad's long, muscular tongue lashes out like a whip. I am pulled into the dark, wet maw of the beast before I can deploy my silk. I find myself trapped in the toad's stomach, surrounded by caustic acids that begin to sear my legs. The system alerts me that my HP is dropping rapidly and I have only seconds to act. Instead of trying to crawl out, I drive my fangs directly into the stomach lining and inject every drop of my venom. I begin to eat the toad from the inside out, consuming its vital organs to fuel my emergency evolution. Outside, the toad begins to thrash wildly, crashing against the glass walls of the terrarium. My body begins to swell and crack as the system triggers a forced metamorphosis using the toad's high-level DNA. A massive clawed leg bursts through the toad's skin, followed by a spray of glowing ichor. I emerge from the carcass, now twice my previous size, with iridescent pink-tipped legs that hum with energy. I look up at young Yuling, who is staring at me with a mixture of terror and greedy fascination. I tap the glass once with my front leg, sensing a structural weakness in the corner. With a single concentrated strike of my weaver's strike skill, the glass shatters into 1,000 diamonds. I land on the desk, scattering microphones and energy drink cans as I crawl toward the witch. Young Yuling screams and tries to swat me away with a heavy textbook. I leap onto her arm, my weight far greater than she expected from such a small creature. Before she can react, the front door of the apartment is kicked open with a thunderous bang. 3 men dressed in traditional dark robes with insect motifs embroidered on their sleeves enter the room. One of them holds a bronze bell, ringing it softly to create a sound that makes my chitin itch. Young Yuling pales, whispering the name of the Wugu cult, her former masters. I realize they aren't here for her, but for the rare spirit insect she has been illegally cultivating me. The lead cultist releases a swarm of black wasps from his sleeve to capture me alive. I weave a web across the ceiling, preparing to show these humans that I am no longer their pet. As the battle erupts, the system unlocks a new skill, Human Parasitism Level 1. I look at the panicked girl and the approaching cultists, deciding exactly who will become my first puppet. I watch the terrified young Yuling cower as my shadow envelops the entire room. The Wugu cultists rush in with silver daggers, but they are nothing more than insects to my new eyes. With a flick of my leg, a thin strand of parasitic silk pierces the lead cultist's forehead. He stops mid-scream, his eyes turning a milky iridescent purple as I take control of his nervous system. I command my new puppet to turn his blade against his brothers, savoring the irony of their internal slaughter. Young Yuling begs for mercy, promising me more sacrifices if I let her live as my servant. I inject a specialized neurotoxin into her spine, ensuring she will remain my loyal human speaker forever. Outside the window, a massive sonic boom rattles the skyscrapers of the city. A meteor fragment has landed in the city center, pulsing with the same cosmic energy that fueled my evolution. I must consume that core to reach my final form before the government can secure it. Below me, armored divisions of the Federal Army are already cordoning off the impact site. Heavy mechanical footsteps shake the earth, signaling the arrival of the Federation's ultimate weapon. The Xingtian mech rises 10 stories tall, its railguns hum with lethal kinetic energy. I leap from the skyscraper, spinning a web parachute that slows my descent into the war zone. The mech's sensors lock onto me, and a barrage of anti-aircraft missiles streaks through the air. I use my blink skill, teleporting through the smoke to land directly on the mech's shoulder. My serrated legs pierce the thick alloy armor as if it were wet paper. The pilot inside screams as my acidic venom begins to melt through the cockpit glass. I tear the hatch off and drag the human out, casting him down into the chaos below. I plunge my fangs into the mech's reactor core, absorbing the raw electrical power. My body begins to expand once more, my exoskeleton turning into a crystalline obsidian armor. The military fires their main railguns at me, but the projectiles shatter against my new shield. I descend from the smoking wreck of the Xingtian and walk toward the meteorite fragment. The stone pulses with the heartbeat of a dying star, calling out to my very soul. I consume the fragment in a single bite, feeling my consciousness transcend the physical realm. I can now see the threads of fate connecting every living creature in this city. With a roar that echoes in the minds of every survivor, I claim this world as my hunting ground. My puppets, led by Yuling, begin to round up the surviving elites to serve the new Weaver. The era of humanity has ended and the age of the evil god has begun. Strange new mutations begin to sprout from the ground, influenced by my presence. I weave a massive canopy of silk over the city, turning it into a protected hive. My offspring begin to hatch from the millions of eggs I have hidden in the shadows. No longer am I the boy who was sacrificed for a ritual. I am the nightmare that survived, the evolution that succeeded, and the god that endured. The Wugu cult members who remain are now my acolytes, worshipping the very beast they tried to create. Young Yuling speaks my name to the world through the few remaining broadcast towers. She tells them of the Weaver of Doom, the only one who can grant survival in the new world. Those who resist are fed to my growing army, fueling the cycle of life and death. I look out over my kingdom, knowing that my evolution will never truly end. I am the Weaver of Doom, and the world is finally caught in my web.